Welcome, wrestling fans. I'm your host, JP. Welcome to another edition of AWMania, where today we're going to be recapping last night's Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, which took place on March the 8th, 2020, live from the Wells Fargo Arena in Philadelphia. And Wells Fargo Arena in Philadelphia, if you know anything, they're usually one of the hottest crowds in pro wrestling. They let you know when they dislike and when they like something. And tonight was no different. I'm going to kick things off straight off with the Women's Elimination Chamber match, which main evented the pay-per-view yesterday. It was Shayna Baszler taking on Natalya, Ruby Riott, Liv Morgan, Sarah Logan, and Asuka. The winner to become the #1 contender for Becky Lynch's world title at Wrestlemania. The main storyline going into this matchup was to establish Shayna Baszler as a true threat to Becky Lynch. We've been doing that over the last few weeks with Shayna Baszler's attack on Becky Lynch, where she bit the back of her neck, then coming out and them brawling some more for a bit. Becky Lynch making it clear that she wants Shayna Baszler at WrestleMania, but before she could get Shayna at WrestleMania, Shayna's got to go through the Elimination Chamber match. She got to prove herself by defeating 5 other women, and by the end of this match, she literally defeated 5 other women. She put 5 other women to sleep. What you needed to do in this match was exactly what we got. Shayna Baszler needed to come out, look like the ultimate badass, look like the ultimate cage fighter. She didn't need to have any equal in this match, but basically go through them. And the closest threat we believed going in was going to be Asuka. Asuka needed to be handled correctly and properly. That is still someone who you do not want to diminish by having her go in there and tapping out as quickly as possible. So let's break it out. The match kicks off. We've got Ruby Riott and Natalya kicking things off in the Elimination Chamber for the first opening 5 minutes. Right? Before that, Sarah Logan joins the party. She jumps into the match. Nothing really crazy happens between these 3 women. They do battle. The main interaction between Sarah Logan, Ruby Riott, and Liv Morgan has been the fact that the Riott squad has split up, and all 3 women are trying to find their place on the main roster. All 3 women are angry with one another because the Riott squad wasn't a gimmick that necessarily worked. All 3 women were kind of like a women jobbers group. They'd come out and they'd either get beaten by Shayna Baszler, not Shayna Baszler, by Becky Lynch, Charlotte, Bayley. On a given basis, they were losing on situations where they had the advantage over most of the women. They're 3 women and they were still losing to 1 girl. You're not going to do anyone any favors if your Tough and Rumble group is taking a beating by 1 person, right? So Shayna Baszler enters as the 4th participant in the Elimination Chamber match. Once Logan, Riott, and Morgan are all in there, and Natalya's in there. No, sorry. Once Natalya, Logan, and Riott are all in the ring, Shayna Baszler enters as the 4th participant, and she just quickly eliminates Logan, Riott, and Natalya, leaving her alone and waiting for either Liv Morgan or Asuka to come in. So we've got a 5-minute period where Shayna Baszler is just looking at the 2 competitors, challenging them, telling them, come on out of the pod, let's go, one of you, let's do it. I'm waiting, I'm going to beat both your asses. She eliminated all 3 other women by her Karabuta clutch, sinking in the rear naked choke, as it's called in mixed martial arts. Eliminates them all. They all tap out. The biggest moment where she had one of the girls up against the cage and was choking her between the ring post and the cage. That was Natalya. She tapped out. Made her look vicious. Made her look like a pure badass in terms of who's going to stop this girl. So as she's waiting for either Liv Morgan and Asuka to come out, Asuka's getting pumped. She's like, let me out. You're building it. The fans are into it. The fans are getting pumped. This is one of those things where WWE tends to pump something up and get you excited to see a confrontation between 2 people, and then will either pull the curtain back and disappoint you and giving you something that you didn't want at that time, or by letting it by letting you wait for too long until your anticipation has either gone away or you've forgotten that you were excited about something. So with no surprise, who do you think comes out next? Out comes out Liv Morgan instead of Asuka, which would have been the better choice of the 2. I understand you want to build up Asuka and Shayna Baszler as your final 2 in this chamber match, and also leave question in the fans' minds of who is going to win between these 2 women. So out comes Liv Morgan, and to no one's surprise, Shayna Baszler just runs through her. Liv tries to get in some offense, but if we're going to build Shayna Baszler to the moon as your ultimate badass and as your unstoppable force, she had to look like the ultimate badass as she did. So Morgan comes out. Not much happens. Baszler picks her up, smashes her head into the pod before locking in, and once again, the Karafuda clutch from the top, locking in the Karafuda clutch. Liv Morgan taps out. Shayna Baszler waits on top of the top rope, taunting in Asuka's face, while Asuka's just saying, "Let me out, let me out." My main issue I took to this match was why did he have to wait the full 5 minutes? Once Shayna Baszler was alone and had either Liv Morgan or Asuka as the next option, they should have immediately gone to the flashing of the lights and picking up a pod to come out. It was not necessary to leave Baszler alone for close to 10 minutes in this match where she was just waiting for someone to come out. I felt that took away the anticipation. It took away the way the match was flowing, where it was a quick succession of Baszler looking at a badass. It just looks silly to have Baszler and Asuka and even Liv Morgan just standing there and waiting. Especially for Liv Morgan, it looks silly that she was waiting to go out and be fed to Shayna Baszler. From Asuka's perspective, she did stand her ground against Baszler, but still, my point is, why do we have to wait a full 5 minutes? I get that those are the rules, but those rules can only really apply if your opponent, if your person in the ring is currently competing against someone. Now, if we're going with the Royal Rumble logic, then yes, I guess you could have the person waiting for the next entrant to come in. But the fact that this is an elimination match, and then you bring in the next person, and then it's a wrap, we should change the rules. If there's one person alone, let's get him in, because it becomes boring that the fans are now staring inside of a cage to someone just doing nothing. So they're taunting Asuka and Baszler. Out comes Asuka. They put on a mildly competitive match back and forth. They're trading stiff shots. Asuka's landing head kicks, leg kicks. Baszler's landing strikes to the face. They're putting on some good competitive back and forth fight. The match, there's an Irish whip off the ropes, a duck under, and Asuka lands a big strike that knocks Baszler to the ground. Eventually, Baszler ends up locking in the Karafuda clutch, and Asuka does go out. Asuka does go out, and Baszler is crowned your official #1 contender for Becky Lynch's title. Now, I've seen some complaints to this match, like, "Oh, Baszler won. That was stupid. She just dominated." Look, I don't know what you were thinking going into this match. The writing was on the wall. Baszler was going to dominate. Baszler was going to defeat all 5 women. Baszler was going to be your girl to fight Becky Lynch. That was what we've set up. Heck, we've done almost as much to announce this match, but without officially announcing it. It would have been just as dumb if Roman Reigns would have competed in an Elimination Chamber match for the right to face Goldberg at Wrestlemania, when the writing has been on the wall and we've been aware that Roman Reigns is going to get a title shot against whoever happens to be the champion at Wrestlemania. So what's the point? We know your direction is Roman. In this case, we needed the fans who are not aware of NXT or haven't seen Baszler in NXT or haven't seen Baszler compete in mixed martial arts. We needed the WWE current Raw fans to have a connection with Baszler. And what better connection to have with Baszler than having us hate her, having us hate the fact that she eliminated 5 other women, having us hate the fact that she looked like a pure badass in this match and didn't even come out with a scratch outside of the competitive nature she had against Asuka. So Baszler comes out looking bad. Becky's in the back watching, and she approves over the fact that Baszler is victorious in this match. And now it's set. At WrestleMania, Baszler, Becky will be competing for the Raw Women's title. And this should be one of the many slobber knockers on this match. Sorry to steal a line from JR, but this should be one of the many exciting matchups that the fans are looking forward to. You've got Becky Lynch, who's been running wild on the WWE for close to a year. She's been holding her own as the Raw Women's Champion and carrying that division for the past year. You have Shayna Baszler, who for the last 2-3 years has been running the NXT Women's division and putting on some great clinical wrestling performances. She's got a submission-based style, which is not necessarily for every pro wrestling fan, for every WWE fan, but it's a different style. And you need to have different styles. You can't always have that quick-paced style. We get worked up when it comes to the way the women wrestle, more than we do for the men. But Shayna Baszler's got that right style for for her physique, for her frame, for her background, and for her gimmick. And Baszler made it clear going into this matchup that you're locking a cage fighter into a cage. What do you think is going to happen? That would be like locking Brock Lesnar into an Elimination Chamber match. I'm not expecting Brock Lesnar to have any issues when the other 5 men come in. I'm expecting him to do just like he did in the Rumble. Smash, smash, and win. So Baszler picks up the win, and we've set ourselves up for the big confrontation at Mania. And we open the door for a potential feud and continuation of a feud with Ruby Riott, Liv Morgan, and Sarah Logan. I'm interested to see where they take that. Asuka doesn't necessarily lose anything. She's still Raw Women's Tag Team. She is still the Women's Tag Team Champion, not specifically to Raw, even though she's been mostly focused on Raw. A potential matchup with Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross may take place at Mania for the Raw for the WWE Women's Tag Team titles between Kairi Sane and Asuka. So Asuka's got herself something set for Mania. There's nothing to be concerned about. She looked very competitive against Baszler, and I would love to see a one-on-one matchup between the two women in the near future.